What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to talk about how to make future bass drop chords, drop saws, just like Illenium inside of Vital. And you guys can download all of these presets in this song and this song. All for free down below for the Illenium free Vital pack. So definitely check that out. All right, so let's get into this. The first thing I want to talk about is these automation clips. There are 5 automation clips just for these chords, but the only thing that's happening here, and I just want to clear it up, is we're automating the cutoff, so how fast it goes, how fast it does that, and also the pitch and some chord and volume automation too. So you guys can hear that at certain points of it, it goes faster, slower, and we can just have full control of that inside of the actual synth rather than having multiple synths and like duplicating it and doing it that way. All right, so the first thing for the sound is, I'm sure most people know that it's gonna be a ton of saw waves. And what's gonna matter a lot here is how we manipulate those saw waves, what kind of effects we put on to really make it stand out and make it a little, just make it pop a little bit. And to start off, what we're gonna do is really shape the sound. And that's how I like to start off these tutorials usually. I like to get the shape going and then we can kind of adjust it as we go, rather than doing like one thing at the end and then like finally it sounds good. So I figured I'm just gonna start it this way as I usually do. So first, we're gonna use all 3 oscillators, all 4 actually with the sampler, but we're gonna shape LFO1. So first we're gonna shape LFO1. If you hold shift, you can click around and it's gonna snap to these lines. So actually you don't even have to hold shift, it'll just snap to these lines. We're gonna put it to this one right here, 1/16th frequency. So it's gonna go 1/16th notes of whatever BPM you're in. We're in 100, so if we're in like 160, you might wanna slow it down to 1/8 or something like that. But for the level, for the volume of the first oscillator, drag it all the way back, and then we're gonna drag that LFO onto there. And then keep it in trigger mode, so now it's gonna sound like this. Drag that sustain back also on the envelope 1, just a little too long and you can hear it bleeding in sometimes. All right, so we have the shape of the sound now. That's why I love doing it that way. Now we can really just kind of customize it for what we want. So first, we're gonna keep that saw wave. For this one, we're gonna put 7 voices of unison. We could put a little bit of detune. And instead of having just a ton of saw waves stacked on each other, like the same exact thing, I like to manipulate each oscillator just a little bit, so it just sounds a little bit different rather than the same thing every time. So I like to put the bend on that, and then we could kind of drag that onto the bend, kind of drag it on, and then we can get a little bit of a different sound of that. It's not much, but it's just a little bit to change it up from the other saw waves we're gonna add. So next we could do the same thing on oscillator 2, 8 voices of unison, and we're just gonna keep this one as it is. Level back, LFO on it, and then we're gonna do the same thing for pretty much oscillator 3 and the white noise down here as well. For this one, let's put it an octave up. So we could do shift up on the mouse wheel, then we could detune it a little bit. Let's detune this one a lot actually. So these ones are just detuned a little bit, 8%, 4%, doesn't really matter. But this one is gonna be the high detune layer. And that sounds like this. And this one can actually add a lot of fullness because we're pretty much having a whole extra octave on top of all of these. And instead of doing it in a different synth, well, a different layer, we can just do it in the same layer. And then we can add our white noise. And what I like to do with the white noise, filter 2, then make sure you put this to filter 1. And then for filter 2, we could put that into the low cut mode, 24 dBs. And then we're just gonna put the filter pretty much to the right because we don't want any low end of that white noise, okay? So we could drag LFO1 onto the level and then we can mix in some white noise. Something else you could do is add the quad saw table, just like a variation of a saw wave. I'm gonna do that for this one. And I recommend that you guys try some different wave tables, something to just get a little bit of a different sound. But right now we're working with this. And now we can move on to the effects, and I'm gonna keep this relatively simple because all the work is done in the oscillator section. Now we just really need to polish up the sound a little bit. First, we're gonna put a little bit of multi-band compression, OTT, AKA. And then we're gonna put a little bit of chorus after the compression, because if we do it before, it just kind of sounds a little weird. You guys can hear there's like a big delay there, so put it after, so the compression or the chorus is hitting it after the compression. And then a cool tip also, we can tighten up the LFO a little bit. I talked about this in a previous video, but we can tighten up that LFO, and we just get a little bit of a cleaner sound. And then the last thing is going to be a little low cut, and we can maybe boost the highs there a little bit as well. If you wanted the sound to be a little brighter, you could also drag the LFO1 onto the gain of that high band, and then now it's gonna pop out some of those high frequencies just a little bit. And then to automate that wobble, we could do it in one macro, but I like to do it in a couple just so it's easier to really tell. It's easier to tell, like, all right, if I turn this one on, it's going to be an eighth note. If I do this one, it'll be a quarter note. So what we could do is drag macro 1 onto the frequency, the 1/16th, and then we could just kind of play it by ear. And then we're going to go down to an eighth. So this one's going to be an eighth, type an eighth there. And then this one's going to be a quarter. So we can try it. That's way too slow, so we can drag it back a little bit. All right, so that's an eighth, and then we could go for the quarter note. We could drag that back, and then we're gonna go a quarter note. So that's gonna be the really slow one. So now for our song, we're good to go. We can automate the eighth, automate the fourth, whenever we want that to kick in the song. And then from there, you guys can really take this any direction. You can try out different wavetables, which I recommend you do. It's not gonna make the biggest difference because at the end of the day, we want to have that classic big future bass saw. So don't get too crazy with it, but at the same time, get a little crazy with it, okay? That's it for this video. Check out the free Illenium pack down below for Vital, and I'll be sure to make a video talking about how to make the basses and leads and all of that. So let me know what you guys want to see down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.